guys, what's up? It's your girl Snitch. How you doing? A moment of silence, please, for the beauty industry. She's dead. Or is she? She is. At least as far as my job is concerned. I think so many of us that have been working in this industry have seen the writing on the wall. The makeup industry, as we once knew it, at its high point in like 2016, just isn't sustainable. It has a little bit to do with coronavirus, but a lot more to do with brands like just fucking up. And the consumer fatigue and influencer fatigue is real. So we're going to talk about all of that. But if you have no idea what the I'm talking about, or if you've never seen my face before, feel free to subscribe down below. We would love to have you. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for joining me on this little video journey. It means the world. You know it does. So I don't normally reintroduce myself here very often on YouTube because I feel like if you're here, you've been here for a while, and if you are new here, then you'll figure it out. I don't want to bore you guys. But for the sake of this video, hi, my name is Eleanor, better known on the internet as Snitchery. I have been like a beauty influencer in the beauty space for 5 years now and doing it full time, like actually doing it seriously for I would say 2 to 3. So I'm definitely not one of those OGs who's been in like the influencer space or the beauty space for a decade, but I have seen a lot of changes in how the cosmetic industry is run, especially online and influencer marketing. And I feel like I lived in the past 5 years, and you probably did too, through a crazy rise and then sort of a trickling fall. And it happened before quarantine. So I wanted to make this video for a while. I had a note in my notes app on my phone that was a perspective title for a YouTube video talking about why makeup had gotten so boring. And this was like last January, not a pandemic in sight, all the freedom in the world to go out, and still makeup just wasn't doing it for me. And I could tell that makeup was also not doing it for a lot of you guys. The excitement had sort of been sucked out of the room when it came to the cosmetics industry. Now this video is obviously spurred on by the fact that Becca Cosmetics announced, I guess a couple weeks ago now, they are closing their doors. Becca is one of those OG companies who worked with OG influencers like Jaclyn Hill. I'm sure you guys know that Becca's claim to fame was their Champagne Pop highlighter. There was a collaboration with Jaclyn Hill. I mean, they were like a legitimate brand before, of course, but the Champagne Pop collection was sort of their hero product, but they also worked with like celebrities like Chrissy Teigen. And when the Champagne Pop collection came out, I want to say this was 2015, 2016, so it really was, like I said, at the very height of the influencer makeup industry just booming. If you put any big name like YouTubers on a product like Jaclyn Hill, it was gonna sell out. And it's also just an amazing highlighter. Okay, I'm really sad about this. I love Champagne Pop and I love Becca highlighters. I will be stocking up before they go out of stores at the end of the summer. But I think that just goes to show that there's really a changing landscape in the makeup space where things like that just don't draw attention anymore. Even the James Charles palette, that launched like 2 years ago now and was incredibly successful. But even though many creators' accounts are growing, I just don't see in the cosmetic space that sort of success that he had with that palette being replicated with another makeup product. And there are a couple reasons for that. These are the murderers of the makeup industry. Before getting into that, let's talk about the sponsor of this video. Y'all, I'm excited about this one because it's a little TMI, which is fun. Let's talk about armpits for a second, okay? We all got them, nothing to be embarrassed about. The only reason I'm ever embarrassed about my armpits is if they stink, and I do everything in my power to ensure that that never happens. I have been on the hunt for a deodorant that works since I hit puberty. Freaking enter native, baby. That was so blurry. Okay, so I was sent these deodorants about 2 months now, and it came just in the nick of time because about a week before I got these, I went into the bathroom when I was visiting my boyfriend and had the terrible realization after opening the cap and seeing like man debris that we in fact used the exact same scent and brand of deodorant because it was the only thing that would keep me from sweating, and I hated the fact that I smelled like a freaking gym bro. These are the only deodorants I've ever found that keep me like very fresh but also just smell really good. The scents don't come across as artificial. It just makes you smell pleasant rather than making you smell like you have deodorant on. It is aluminum free, paraben free, and sulfate free. This one is sandalwood and fig. It just smells so pleasant. You know, deodorant has that kind of chemically smell that all deodorants smell like over top of their scent. These don't have that. They just smell good. Normally 3 deodorants are $36, but if you use the link down in the description box or you use my code Snitchery, you will get all 3 for only $24. You can try 3 cents. Again, that's 33% off your entire order if you use code Snitchery or use the link down below. Get yourself some nice deodorant, y'all. You deserve it. Okay, on to the death. So I think the biggest reason, honestly, that the makeup industry is dying is that it was entirely inevitable. There are definitely some more dramatic reasons down the road that we kind of sped up the process of this absolute collapse. But in a way, it was always going to die because it was never going to be as big as it was in like 2015, 2016. Granted, I haven't looked at the numbers, and obviously the beauty industry is not actually dying. Ultas are going in a bunch of Targets, and Sephora's are going in a bunch of Kohl's. Like, it's this massive deal that all 4 companies made. Obviously not with each other, but you get it. Makeup is still a hot commodity, and it might still be listed in like the fucking fake money of the world as a growing industry. However, certainly in the way that it's being talked about and consumed by young people, there isn't this just like makeup culture in the same way that there was a makeup community in 2016. People got bored. I mean, oftentimes we see like a hot new thing on the internet and we just assume that it's going to be popular for a couple months or a couple years, and then understand that at a certain point it's sort of going to lose popularity. This happened with like, I don't know, Fortnite, right? Like, Fortnite is still huge, but it was never going to be as big as it was in its peak. So Fortnite will always, in a way, slowly be dying. The makeup industry, I think, is the same way. We saw the peak a couple years ago, and it just makes sense that it's going to trickle off. That said, this was not an inevitable conclusion so soon, and it didn't have to happen so drastically. I mean, number one, I think a lot of these legacy brands are just not releasing things we want to see anymore. Like, I'm not going to name names, okay? But you guys know who I'm talking about. Some of those brands that have been around for a really long time and just seemingly never do anything different and just re-release very similar products with very similar packaging for a very similar type of girl who has been doing very similar makeup for a really long time, and they just haven't changed things up. And for a long time, those brands were the core of the makeup industry. The brands that sat somewhere between like a YouTube glam girl, but also just your natural everyday makeup, that really worked when in 2016, everybody was just starting to get into makeup because these brands were incredibly approachable. You would open pretty much any one of their palettes and every single color was like a brown or a taupe or a pink or a purple. It looked like something you could put on your eye. I'm talking, let me name names for this part because I'm not gonna say which of them I think are dying. Tarte, Too Faced, Benefit, Becca, those sorts of brands, and so many more that were sort of the front runners of this big makeup industry boom. And then a bunch of people learned how to do their makeup. They figured it out over the course of like a year or two. So people were looking for something a little bit more creative, and a makeup community was starting to form online. People wanted to do cool shit. You bring in like the Kat Von D's, even to a point like Anastasia Beverly Hills, the colors of Morphe. ColourPop was a huge one. These e-commerce brands that suddenly offered a ton of products, a ton of color, a ton of chance to be creative. It was the days of the cut crease, the days of the halo eye. You wanted a lot of makeup on your face if you were like sort of a makeup or a perspective makeup influencer. That was sort of the way to get big. Then I think what happened is everybody tried their hand at that and they got fucking bored. They got tired. They got exhausted. I think that happened around like 2018, 2019, hence like the big boom of Glossier and Milk and skincare companies. No makeup, glass skin makeup. Those trends, which have been so popular for the past couple years, just doesn't sell that much makeup. Like, you're not gonna buy as many tinted moisturizers as you are like fun colored lipstick. It's just not gonna happen. You're also just not using as many products on your face. I love it. It's what most of my videos now are about, just working with your features to make subtle changes. But in terms of showing it off online and stuff, people aren't gonna go out, buy a bunch of natural products and then post like a look. So now I think there's a real disconnect between what people are doing personally in their makeup and what they're doing online with their makeup, where that didn't used to be the case. The community is just not what it used to be. I also just think consumers have an immense amount of product fatigue. If I went to Ulta, I would like wait a week to go, make like a whole day out of it. I would go and like pick up a couple things I had looked up beforehand and read reviews about and seen YouTubers talking about, and I would get so excited. And now it's like so much is coming out at once from every brand. There's just no interest in trying it because you've seen that exact same product from like 12 other brands this month. A lot of the creativity you see now with makeup brands is all about packaging. It's all about like the vibe of the brand. That's sort of where you can really sell your products. I'm thinking about Halsey's About Face brand, which just launched, and she has very similar products actually to the House Labs launch. Eyeshadow crayons and liquid eyeshadow. It's very, very similar, but the vibe of the brand is so completely and entirely different you would really ever know. But that innovation does come in things like the packaging. It doesn't necessarily come in the colors. There's only so much you can do. So I think for people who are interested in makeup, they've now spent 5 years collecting makeup, knowing exactly what they like. They're not necessarily going to be inclined to go out and like try new things. I think most people now have a beauty routine, and the like manic need to try every new thing from every new brand just doesn't exist. I also think there's something to be said for the fact that people just got sick of influencers, and influencers also got sick, I think, of just doing makeup. For this, I'm really not naming names because I have just done everything in my power, which is nothing, to never be involved in drama. I feel like it's really one of the easier things to do. Unfortunately, the beauty industry on the internet especially is now synonymous with drama. It's synonymous with scandal. It's synonymous with like bad, selfish people, and I have not in my experience really met anybody who I have ever felt in person, any trip, in any event, that I was like, oh, you're a bad person. I also think those probably weren't the type of people I would talk to during those experiences. Whether people in the beauty industry are like bad, selfish people, I don't think that's the case. That's certainly the perception around the rest of the internet, and even with like the makeup community, the people who are deeply ingrained in makeup, so much of the makeup community hates top players of the makeup industry. And I just don't think it puts our community or our industry in a great place to be taken seriously or to be a fun, conducive, productive, collaborative space for everybody. And I think because that is the case, a lot of people just fell out of love and became disillusioned with the industry itself. Makeup at a point, I think, just stopped being about makeup and started being more about personality and numbers. It's all existing online in this like social media sphere. For a while, we had something really pure where it did feel collaborative rather than competitive, and I don't think we'll ever get back there. It was fun while it lasted. Also, y'all, brands are releasing way too much. Brands need to chill. Please, I beg. There's an oversaturation, both in the number of products that companies individually are producing. Like, companies are just throwing out shit at this point. But there's also just so many brands now. Every influencer has a makeup brand. Every celebrity has a makeup brand. And it makes sense. It is and was really lucrative. Instead of like 3 exciting palettes launching a month maybe from a couple different brands, now it's like there are 12 palettes launching a day, and it's kind of now on you to know which brands you like. And I think most people just don't really feel like doing that, so they just don't buy new things anymore when things are launched. They just rebuy their old favorites because they've been working for the past 5 years. And why would you branch out when you're not even excited to try it in the first place? I also just think, I don't even know how to phrase this really, but I think people are more interested now in figuring out how to feel as confident as they do with makeup right when they wake up. So they're doing things like getting filler, getting Botox. I talked about that in my last video, why I wouldn't necessarily recommend those things, but I also, like, I've done them in the past. I can't not recommend them because for a while they did make me feel more confident, and they're also fun. Watch that video if you're interested. I have like a much more nuanced opinion. There are health concerns, but certainly in terms of like aesthetic preferences, I understand now why people want to get the like microbladed brows, and they're paying for spa treatments and skincare instead of for heavy foundation. They want to get filler instead of like contouring the fuck out of their face. Eyelash extensions, which I have. And for the average person, even potentially the average hardcore makeup fanatic, after years and years, you just don't want to spend an hour doing your face every day. I can attest to that. You just don't. You get to a point and you just don't. My point was propelled by quarantine, which I think is the last reason, the last kind of nail in the coffin of why the beauty industry just isn't what it was anymore. A couple things. COVID obviously stopped companies from logistically producing things, so there couldn't be new launches, so people also just kept being bored. There weren't new products coming out and there wasn't much innovation because nothing was happening. But also during quarantine, I think people chilled out a little bit and there was nowhere to go, right? You're not going to buy like a sparkly, innovative rainbow palette to sit at home. I mean, some people did. It was a great time for content creation, but the average makeup consumer would only buy that palette if they had something really specific they had to do, or they were like, oh, I have a night out or a concert. Those sorts of products that would lead to a really thriving creative makeup community just aren't prioritized right now because we're not going anywhere and we don't want to go out. And if you're going to be doing your makeup, you're going to be like doing your eyebrows, right? Becca cited COVID as one of the primary reasons that they were shutting their doors. And I can't imagine trying to sell makeup to people who were also told not to see anybody for a year. I think it makes sense that a lot of companies now are slowing down their rollouts, which I actually think is a really good thing. There is also one place where the makeup industry is still thriving, and that is on TikTok. There are a ton of TikTok makeup artists who are going hyper viral all the time, doing like really sick makeup looks. I haven't really seen that expand into like any kind of community or to any other social media networks, but it does go to show the lasting power of the cosmetics industry. People are always going to be interested in makeup. As soon as a new social media popped up, immediately there were makeup artists on it doing like creative looks. I don't think it'll ever go away, and I don't think that makeup or the beauty industry or the beauty community will ever actually ever die. Too many people love it, myself included, and too many people have fun, but I do think unfortunately it's time we say goodbye to the heyday of beauty, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, where it was just this fun, thriving place. A number of things have killed it. Brand, influencer, even consumer alike. And I miss it so much, guys. Becca closing really made me sad because it reminded me so nostalgically of a time when things were just fun and just easy. And how do we get back to that? I'm so curious what you guys think. I would love to hear your comments in this video more than ever. What you think happened to the makeup industry, where you think we are now, if you agree with me, disagree with me, if you think it's bigger and more thriving than ever, if you think it's totally dead and it'll never come back, why? Either way, let me know. And if you made it to the end of this video and have absolutely nothing to say, leave a peace sign I just miss when makeup was fun so bad, and you guys are smart as fuck, so I'm so curious about what you think we could possibly do to get it back. Like this video if you liked it. It helps me in the algorithm a bunch. Thank you for being my friend today and always, and I will see you guys in the next one. Mwah. Bye guys.